Hey,
Hey, girl.
how
No,
goes
you don't
it?
have this. No, you don't have that sexy intro music.
Oh,
I
so
love it.
so my intro song was actually done by my former worship worship team lead. Yeah,
Worship leader.
yeah. Um,
He did it.
hey, he is a very talented
Tasha.
individual. We're actually
Tasha.
yes.
I
he
love it, girl.
he surprised me with it, and it was just he gifted it to me just to basically congratulate me on stepping out and doing this venture. So I was thoroughly appreciative of it.
You,
Like I said, I'm surrounded by some pretty dope people. So
that's
um
good.
but for those that don't know him, it's Robert Ellis. So if you want to check out music, or if you need to know anything about music, hit him up. This man is a musical genius. So the way
Hey,
he sees and hears music is insane. But for him to do that for me, like I was overwhelmed by the fact that he actually thought about me like that. So yeah, so that's where that
that
comes
is
from.
super sweet. Super
Yeah.
sweet and nice. It's always good to have good people on your team, though.
Oh yeah,
Always.
definitely. That was actually the episode that I recorded, that I put out last week. That's what that was about. Just basically recognizing the people that you do have in your corner, and not being so hung up on the ones that's not.
Hello.
We miss out on exactly. So if you have not checked out that episode, go onto my
I
podcast on any
shall.
platform, and you can go find it. But that's not what we want to talk about today. Today we got a whole other topic, and I know, let's go ahead and address something that we're dealing with right now. Guilty on all three counts. I I can't
Girl,
I can't celebrate, because that, like, we shouldn't be celebrating somebody's death, right? And something that we all knew was
that you
wrong.
saw happen. Right.
That we
Right.
exactly. So like, I can't celebrate because this win comes at a major loss of somebody losing their life in plain sight, for the world to see, and then it's still being debated whether or not it was justified or not. So um it's a
But
bittersweet.
justice was served
Oh,
for his
as far as
family. For
justice,
us.
yes,
For
justice was
us.
done, yes.
Yeah.
And hopefully this is the beginning of a new era of recognizing, that simply because you have a badge, you are not the judge, jury, and executioner.
Amen.
Yeah.
Baby, did you see them eyes? He was looking like, I know I didn't hear that right.
Like,
I know,
run that
I
back.
know, I know they didn't just say,
He
I'm guilty of killing a black man.
at
Yes.
all. Yeah,
Yes.
he wasn't ready for that. I think he knew that what he did was wrong. My daughter and I were talking about it earlier. Like, he knew what he did was wrong, but I don't think he realized that he was about to get hemmed up for it. So
No, no, he had no clue. He
yeah,
had no clue.
but I'm perfectly fine with that. So
Me too. Me too.
uh,
And everybody was like, well, let's see what the citizen is. I said, I take baby steps and celebrate the small, because I mean, look at how many have been videotaped. Rodney King, the first one, all four acquitted. So I'm just thanking God. And I know, like you said, it's a sad celebration. It's
yeah,
like we celebrating somebody having to be convicted for killing somebody. But man, God is
yeah.
good. That's all.
But
I cried
it's
a
not
little
the
bit. I shouted.
like I said, I've just been kind of,
Yeah.
I've been taking it in, and it's like I said, fighting the urge to get excited, making sure that my excitement is in the right place, and not, the excitement of, a life being lost, of two lives being destroyed. So I could go on and on for that, but I want to have the conversation that we kind of started to touch on the last time that we talked. So anybody who is just joining us and has not watched our episode, you can go ahead and go back, look on my IGTV, look on YouTube. Our episodes are there, so you'll understand where this is all stemming from. But we were talking about our childhoods and some of the things that we experienced growing up, and how things have changed from how we grew up to now how we parent our own children.
Right.
And one of the big topics, because we're inundated with it every day, all day, you cannot get away from it unless you literally live in a cave somewhere and don't have any sort of connection to the outside world. Sex. Sex is everywhere, is on everything. So I wanted to, like, let's backtrack and look, a few years back to when we were kids. And
maybe 5. Yeah.
5 or 6, you know, put, you know, like a 2 or a 2 or a 3 in front of that. But,
Yeah.
but going back, like whenever, what's like, as far as your childhood is concerned, what is your first recollection about sex? Like, what's your first thought about that?
So I know I'm gonna go way back, and I'm really gonna tell my age, but I remember staying up when HBO first came out, and they would have, was it like Sex After Dark or something? It was pertaining to like a cab, talking dirty in a cab, and I was intrigued by that.
Was that Cab
Like
Confessions?
Cab Confessions, Cab Confessions. And you know, my mama didn't know we was watching that girl. I mean, you know, I'm 11 years old, you know. But I was intrigued by, they had sex dungeons back then, they had dominatrix and all that, and I was just like, huh. You know, mama, sex for us was always, you don't do it.
Yep.
You don't do it.
Period.
You keep your legs closed.
There was no extra on that statement. It was sex, no, period, done, end of discussion. That's it. So, so for me, now, of course, I'm gonna date myself, and I don't know if I've ever even really told anybody about this, but the one name in sex that I will never ever forget is the name Vanessa Del Rio. And and the reason I won't forget it is because I remember coming across a video, like a VHS, right? And it had a white label with just black letters on it. And
that straight porn back in the day, baby. That's
listen, but me being, you know, I don't remember how I stumbled on it, but I remember watching it, and I remember seeing the name Vanessa Del Rio on it. So like obviously I was old enough to read it, and that name just stuck out to me for forever. But I remember watching it, and I was like, I could not believe like what I was seeing. I couldn't really understand exactly what was happening, because that wasn't something that we discussed. It wasn't a conversation, but here it is. I'm watching all of this. And I also remember whenever I was younger, like being at the swimming pool. I'm at the swimming pool, and I'm leaning on the edge. Y'all really about to get to know me, my poor children. But I'm leaning on the edge, and them daggone jets hit the right spot. And I was like,
ooh, what that is?
Hey, listen, I learned in that moment, I like the way that this feels. Like, oh, if you touch that area, or if that area feels something, it feels good. So you know, of course now I'm now I know this about myself, and I'm finding time on my own, whether it be in the bathroom or look, people are laughing about it, but I think I'm telling stories that a lot of other people they've had, but they don't want to talk about it. But now I know that this feels good. I mean, that's just like somebody who's sucking their thumb. They like it because it's comforting, it feels good, whatever. So now I'm finding myself randomly doing this stuff. I grew up in a Catholic household, so
you better not. You're going to hell,
I'm going
Tasha.
straight to do not pass go. I got speed pass. I'm going straight to the front of the line. And girl, listen, but so I'm all sorts of conflicted, and you know, like I said, me being a little bad child that I was, I'm also kind of like, I don't care, like it feels good, I like it, so I'm gonna keep doing it. But then whenever I hear grown-ups talking about anything about sex, it's like it's bad, it's wrong, you know. And like you said, it's just sex is for marriage and babies. That's it, done, period, end of statement.
That's it,
and that's it. So so for me, add that in with the sexual trauma from outside forces that I'm dealing with. I'm all confused about what sex really is and what sex should be.
Totally mess you up.
And so I can't have these conversations because I don't even understand what I'm feeling on my own, because when it comes to what these adults are doing to me, I don't like it. But when it comes to what I can do to myself, I like it. But then you're telling me that this is something that's just for a husband and a wife, and sex is bad for somebody that's by themselves. My brain is all over the place. My feelings are all over the place. My shame is all over the place. And there's no conversations that are happening about it. So, and I don't know, you know, you said that, you know, it was basically like, you know, don't do it. It's bad, period. End of story. Keep your legs closed.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
So,
That's it.
but obviously, that
I ain't keep
didn't
my
apply
legs
to
closed.
you.
I ain't keep my legs closed. Yeah. I'll say this. Once my friend, when you have those clusters of friends, and I'm talking about as early as junior high, my ninth grade year. I ain't gonna say no names because he done went on to be with the Lord.
I
But my
remember that
ninth
year.
grade boyfriend, my ninth grade boyfriend, I got a call. I had cheerleading practice. I went home. He had played basketball. I got a call from one of my homegirls. This ninth grade now, ninth grade, 14 years old. I got a call from one of my homegirls saying that a girl had just sucked my boyfriend saying after school in the in the closet of, and I was like, what? Like completely just blown away. Why why would he let her do that? Just
Because
as
it feel good
naive
and
and
she's
silly
offering it up.
and young. Yeah, so that was my first interaction with this is sex. Like this is an act of sex. Now looking back, I know what that is. But then became very, very curious. My 10th grade year, all of my friends, I had 5 good homegirls, had already had sex. Already by the time I'm 15. And the experience was, through them.
Yeah.
Through them. And I didn't want to be the last one. I hate to say it was peer pressure because that's not really what I want to call it. It was curiosity.
Yeah.
Why would I be the last one left out of that? Not knowing what that felt like, what the experience was. Here I was liking a boy who really liked me. Why not? It wasn't that I was so in love and so connected and I needed to feel that connection and it should be so special. That's not what my first experience was. It was strictly.
That's most people. That's most people because you got 2 blind people trying to figure out stuff that they don't know nothing
Trying
about.
to figure it out, girl.
And let's address something, right? People, when they think of peer pressure, they think it's people forcing you to do stuff. It is simply the pressure of your peers.
Yep.
And because of the fact that they were doing it, right? Now you have this pressure of being curious. So it wasn't that they like said, oh, you should do this or
do it. Right.
Yeah, it was simply because what they were doing put curiosity into your view, right? Like had they not been doing it, you probably wouldn't have thought anything about it. So it was something
and I couldn't contribute to the conversation, Tasha. That's important to young girls. I want to have an input. I want to say something about it. And I had nothing. And here they are. You still haven't done it. You still haven't tried. I'm like, no. Like you gotta have a boyfriend first. And I never forget one of my girls said, no, you don't. Y'all just gotta want to do it. And I was thinking, I'm telling you. Yeah. And of course people say, oh, they just fast. They just think. Right. Right.
Yes.
So the first opportunity, the first boyfriend, because in my mind, I thought you got to have a boyfriend at least. You just can't be out here having sex with folks, just you don't know, they're not your boyfriend. So the first real boyfriend I got, that's what I did at 15 years old. 15.
But you know what? Times have not necessarily changed that much because the stuff that you're talking about, like these are the same. And for those that are watching, we wanted to have our daughters on so we could have this conversation. So It wasn't just a one-sided conversation, but our young ladies are growing up and they got jobs and they got responsibilities, right? But ain't nobody worried about no little live chat on Instagram. They got to make their money. So but yeah, like the stuff you're talking about, I had these exact same conversations with my daughters here in 2019, 2020, where they're sitting there talking about what their little friends are doing. They're like, well, she did such and such, she gave so-and-so a blowjob, or she let so-and-so finger her or whatever, and that's not even her boyfriend. And I'm like, that it don't need to be a boyfriend. Like there's no rules on that. There's nothing that's gonna stop it from happening simply because y'all don't have a title. And they were like, what? And I'm like, yes. So here it is, 20, 30 years later, it's still that same idea, that same mentality. But contrary to what my parents were doing at that time, first of all, I was not going to bring up the topic of what I knew my friends were doing to my parents.
Because they've been called all of their parents, honey.
Child, listen, then ain't nobody hanging out with me because Tasha's a snitch,
Not the
and
snitch.
I ain't no snitch. So y'all ain't about to mess up my party time. But I'm not going to have that conversation with them. But here it is, my kids are having that conversation, and I'm not going to shut them down. We're going to go ahead and continue to discuss this because, no, like, I need y'all to understand what reality is. And speaking of, like, first-time experiences dealing with sex, I remembered as a mom that I was gonna have to get ahead of the ball when it came to my kids, because of course I have, you know, a lot of people, you know, they think I either have 2 daughters or I only have a son. They never realize I got all 3 because together. You know, here's my baby who's my son who's grown. But I remember whenever he was in like 3rd grade, he came home to me and he's basically telling me about one of his friends, and he said, he said that's how his mom and her boyfriend made the baby. They hugged really, really hard. They what? A hug? Listen, because I give real hugs. I don't give church hugs. And if that's the case, I would have a whole United Colors a whole like NFL league of babies because like, I'm hugging you, right? So I was like, oh no, I need my baby to understand this is not. So in 3rd grade, I'm having to have this conversation with my child because I felt like I never ever want them to feel like, A, they can't have that conversation with me, and B, I don't want them to have the wrong information. Like, no, sir, I don't need you to be running around here thinking you can't hug nobody because you about to give them a baby.
Right. So true.
So I knew then, you know, at that time I was 23. No, not 23. I was about like 28. I'm having to have this conversation with my child to make him understand what sex is. Sex is how babies are made. And when you, when you start having that conversation, you can't stop having that conversation.
You can't. It's ongoing.
Yes.
Once you start, it is ongoing. And, you know, I have had to talk to a lot of parents whose children have been sexually abused, touched inappropriately. And one of my first questions is when did you talk to them about good touch, bad touch? And they are like, I have no clue what you're saying. So it's almost like if we don't prepare them for this ugly world, they're going to find out about it.
Yep.
You know, good touch, bad touch is simply knowing your private parts, knowing the right name.
Yeah.
Working with a young female who was 6 and she kept calling it her cookie. My uncle touched my cookie. It never registered to her mom. She was talking about her privates. And so, grandmother, that he was talking about privates. Uncle touched my cookie. Well, baby, he could touch your cookie, you know. So she's not getting it. Yeah. And so finally, take the little baby, get the forensic done. Her cookie is her vagina. Why don't we just teach that? What's so ugly about that word?
Yeah.
I don't want them using adult words. That's the regular anatomy word.
Yeah, that is a word in the dictionary. That is not. There's no classification about whether something is a noun, a verb, adult, or child. Like, it's a word.
Right.
It is the appropriate word.
Absolutely. So just that education piece of saying that's private to you. Nobody touches that. Wherever your underwear covered, you know, those type of things. But it's so much, Tasha. It's not even just somebody touching your child. You have people now who are overly exposing children to sex.
Yeah.
Seeing their parents have sex and they're not explaining to them what's really going on. Allowing them to see porn and they not telling them what's going on. You know, so it's those small little things that can really make a difference. And I think because we grow up and we want to act like sex is dirty, but sex is not dirty. It is a pleasurable thing that God designed between a man and a woman, not just husband and wives. I think the Lord knew that it would be good that that's just how it's going to be. And so it's not dirty. I think owning your sexuality, owning who you are, knowing what you like, that comes with being an adult. Now, would I tell all that to a teenager? Absolutely not.
Well, we're different because I sure told mine.
Did you?
Yes, I did. And the reason I told him that was because, like I said, I remember what them jets felt like. I remember what it felt like. And I was like, I don't want my girls to ever come into any sort of situation where you know, and not just my girls, you know, I had the same, you know, same sort of conversation with my son. Obviously, it wasn't 100% relatable because I don't have a penis.
I don't have that part.
But I can tell you, like, this was my experience. So anytime, you know, the topic of sex or, you know, self-gratification, aka masturbation, because I'm gonna act like I got some sense and use, you know, proper terms. But anyway, I was open to having those discussions because I know for me, one of the reasons why I genuinely had an issue with how I viewed sex and my own sexuality was because early on, the fact that I knew what that felt like made me feel like I was dirty because of how, like, something's wrong with me. And like I said, I was going straight to the front of the line to hell because I knew something about my body and I continue to enjoy something about my body that you're telling me is wrong. And move that into adulthood. If you don't know your body, and this is what I've said to my children, if you don't know your body, how is it possible for you to convey it to your partner what you like and what you don't like? That's not me telling you, hey, you know what? Go on Amazon Prime, clickety click, find you some toys and hook it on up. That's not what I'm telling you. What I am telling you is your body is yours. your body is yours, and what you do with it is your business. If you never ever do it, that's on you. If you want to do it because that's how you put yourself to sleep, not telling on nobody, but that's what you do. That's what you do.
If that's how you de-stress from the day.
If that's what keeps you from punching somebody in the face, you do that. But it is yours to do. So I wanted to have that conversation and help them understand that sex, you know, as much as we would love for our children to wait until marriage and, you know, only do it just with the 3 times that they make babies, that's not reality. That is not the truth. That is not what they are going to go through. So I had to have conversations with them that would prepare them for not only the rest of the world, but for themselves. Because as they start to get curious about themselves, I don't want you to feel like something is wrong with you because you happen to rub up against something the right way. And now all of a sudden you're starting to explore that a little bit more. Because the sexual experiences that your friends talk about is not what you consider to be pleasurable. And now you feel like something is wrong. No, sex is different for everybody. What is pleasurable is different for everybody. But if you like it, I love it. Whatever happens between 2 consensual adults, do what you do. And no, these are conversations that, you know, and I've had them with my mama, you know, as I've grown up, talking to her about the things that I've said with my own children. And because I needed her to understand that the way that she approached it was actually harmful to me. Because it made me, I didn't have an understanding about it. And I'm out here trying to figure things out on my own because I am a very sexually charged person. And I've felt that way since I was younger. But rather than having those conversations with me to help me understand what my body was going through, what my mind was going through, I'm out here, you know, half crazy on my own as a 14-year-old trying to figure it out. And
and I
didn't want my children to have to go through that. I wanted them to know, like, hey, if y'all start venturing down that road, I'm not giving you the seal of approval to do it, but I am giving you the seal of understanding.
Absolutely. And that is such a difference, is because, like you're saying, self-exploration with yourself, and I'm not embarrassed to tell people, I tell people this and they laugh at me. I never touched myself, pleasured myself, anything until after I was my divorce, because then I was thinking, what do I do? How do you do this? And one of my friends for my divorce party, she gave me a vibrator. I was like, I would never use that, girl. And then one night, I decided to let's explore. And then I said, you got to be kidding me. This is how this makes you feel? So, you know, it's those small little things. Now, of course, I don't feel like parents should, like you just said, here go some toys, explore. Definitely not that. But knowing who you are, knowing what feels good to you, how do you know where to set limits if you don't do that? You know what I'm saying? So it's all about, I want to back up a little bit because I want to say, at what age did you start talking to your girls? Like, or your son too, because boys are different. You know, they are different.
So with my son, it was when he was taking real long showers.
What age was that, Tasha?
Huh?
What age was that?
I want to say he was probably like 14 or 15.
Oh.
But and let me go on record and say, like, this is not to say that there's the right age or the wrong age. You know, I don't want anybody to feel like what I'm saying is the baseline. All I know is this is what happened in my household, and this is when I felt like those conversations needed to happen. And I was like, yo, look, you share a bathroom with your sisters, and they need to take their showers too, and you taking too long. So you know what you're gonna do? You last, and you better make sure you clean that entire shower out. Like, like,
yeah, because you knew what was going on.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I told him. I was like, look, I said, if that's what you're doing, that's on you. But you can't have what you doing interfere with everybody else. That's what you're not about to do. So I never wanted him to feel bad about it, or you know, like it was inappropriate or whatever. And like I said, I'm sure there's some people that will get up here and say, oh no, it's wrong. And that's fine for your household. But I'm telling y'all, for me as a child, what did not work was telling me no and putting a period behind that, not allowing me to understand it, because had I had more conversations. And now, girl, you know, we jump all over the place whenever we talk. Now let's fast forward to me having my own children and having these open conversations and open dialogue. And my son graduated high school and was a virgin. That would have never happened with me, because I'm sitting here trying to figure it out. I had those conversations with him, so I don't feel like there was really anything that he needed to figure out. Now, granted, college changed that. but
you know, that's still a rarity. He's a unicorn to graduate from high school and still be a virgin. Seriously, boy.
But yeah, exactly. And so I felt like I'm going to continue to keep those lines of communication open, because I would rather them come to me and ask questions and go out there educated if they are going to do something, than to go out there uneducated and they out there flailing around trying to figure out, what the hell am I doing? I'm going to at least give you a basic understanding of, or a basic understanding from my perspective as, you know, as a woman who at one point in life, yes, I was a teenager. At one point in life, I was not a mother, and recognizing not only the possible ramifications that come along with it when it comes to the, you know, the possibility of getting pregnant and sexually transmitted diseases, but let's talk about the emotional stuff that happens. Let's talk about, like, I want to have those conversations with y'all. And once I tell y'all all of that stuff, whatever you do with that information is on you. But do not say that you are not educated. Do not say, oh, I didn't know what I was getting into, because you are well aware, and you are making that choice for yourself. That's not a choice that I want for you, but I'm gonna at least educate you to where I can't say, oh, well, she didn't know any better, or he didn't know any better about what he was getting into. So I feel like, you know, people need to have those conversations. And I'm gonna go ahead and rat on my my Christian folks, because what I noticed was the ones that did not want to have these conversations, I noticed a couple of things. I noticed that teenagers were extremely curious about sex, to the point to where it was almost like, as they would define, totally deviant, right? You have them sneaking to look at girls, and you have them, you know, sneaking away from the family to go and look at porn on their laptops, and they don't want to have the conversation about sex. Then you even have these Christians, you know, who are grown-ups, who are terrified about getting married, because they don't know what they're, you know, what they're going to do for their wedding night. They don't understand sex enough for their wedding night. And I'm like, for people who talk about God and all of the things that God has created, God created sex.
God created it.
Stop acting like, how did y'all get here? Y'all did not get here about fairy dust. Somebody was,
stop making it a dirty thing.
Yeah, it's not dirty. We make it dirty.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And I think too, like you said, even in the Black household, it is common for boys to masturbate. But some of them definitely got ridiculed for doing that. But then also, if a girl did that, oh my God, you nasty, filthy,
You fast.
All of these, you fast, who done touched you, what's in it. But like you said, self-exploration. I just found out that I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes it dirty? You got to be prepared for those tough conversations. You just can no longer tell kids, don't do that.
No.
The influences around them are so great right now. Not even just their friends, but television,
Media.
social media. They're in a whole another realm when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to expressing who they are sexually, because these children don't even believe anal sex and oral sex is
sex. But yet sex is in the word.
I had this girl tell me she was still a virgin. Miss Keisha, I've never had vaginal sex. I only had, I done gave a couple of blowjobs and I had anal sex once. I said, baby, you're not a virgin. Nope. Yes, I am. Because nobody ever popped my cherry yet, baby. You're not a virgin. Okay?
Bless it. Bless it.
Right. But then, like I say, they have their own definitions of things. But you touched on a very key point. Emotionally, what does sex do? And that was the angle I went with my girls. I never forget, like I said, I started probably about 5 or 6, telling them about the body parts, making sure I told them nobody touched that. If they do, we had keywords, code words. Somebody touched you inappropriately, giraffe or dolphin. Dolphin was my oldest girl, giraffe was my baby girl. I knew automatically what that meant. I automatically was ready. The same thing happened when I always told them, when you're ready for sex, after we've had this conversation and I've told you what it is, and I've told you about the ramifications of emotionally, physically, spiritually, what it'll do to you. I mean, I went through it all. And if you still think you're ready, I'm not going to talk you out of it. I want you to text me the number 2. I know what it means. I'll make an appointment. But I told them, you got to go to the health department.
Yeah.
And they was like, why? I said, because the health department provides sex education, number 1. Number 2, you can't go to a regular OBGYN. I said, you're going to have to go and get this education and get on some birth control.
Yep.
Both my daughters, before they graduated high school, text me the number 2. And the first one, my first girl made it all the way to her 11th grade year, and I remember being in the office like this. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Lord, please, God, I ain't ready yet, Lord. But you know what? You got to get ready.
Yeah.
You got to get ready.
Because whether you
start on your word.
Yep.
And
whether we like it or not, they got to grow up. Yeah. They got to grow up. And
they're going to.
Yeah. And it's not something that we rejoice in. Like, we look forward to our children growing up and being mature, but like those choices that have to be made, like that's the hard part, knowing that you're going to be putting them out into the world, and hopefully you've prepared them for everything up under the sun. And yes, there's some things that we know that we're going to have missed, but on whatever, I was talking to my oldest daughter about actually doing this episode, and she was like, well, Mama, we never had a sex talk. And I was like, she's right. We didn't. No, we didn't, because we always just talked about sex. There was no need to sit down and have a sex talk, because it was always kind of part of. So
they knew where babies came from and all that?
Yeah.
Oh, girl, you good.
Like it was just, kind of along the way, like.
Just regular conversation.
Like, and granted, like there's still moments where I'll talk about stuff and they're like, oh my God, Mama, stop. They're like, oh, okay. Like the other day, it was some sort of way we were talking about the Mile High Club, and they were like, Mama, and I was like, they said don't talk no more, and I was like, well, I mean, y'all started asking, so. But the thing is like there was never a time where, well, today we're gonna sit down and we're gonna talk about the birds and bees. First of all, I don't understand what the hell that means.
Well, because birds, bees, pollinate, fly, all that kind of stuff.
What that got to do with a vagina and a penis and babies?
I just think I just think your flower is your vagina, and the bee stinger is the man's penis. But that is somebody else's culture and way of teaching your kids the wrong way.
Yeah. We're not doing that. We're talking about a vagina and a penis, and it's some bodily fluids that's gonna be mixing. All right, like let's talk to the dirty, ugly part. But I think, that's something that I don't think any parent is really ready for, because, and I've told this story before and I'm going to tell it again. My son was actually in college, and I remember he had come home to go to a dentist appointment, and because he was out in DC and I lived in Northern Virginia. So he had taken the train to come to a dentist appointment, but I was off from work. So I was like, you know what? I'll just go ahead and drive you back to DC. So I'm driving, and as I'm driving, he's talking, and I feel like I had already thought about it before, but I guess it just came out. But as he's talking to me, he's in the passenger seat, he's talking, and I was like, you fucking ain't you. We wasn't even talking about sex. And he was like, no, ma'am. I said, you lying. He was like, yes, ma'am. I said, okay, finish saying what you was talking about. We'll finish saying what you was talking about. We'll talk about it later. So he finished the conversation, and he was like, so, I mean, you want to talk about? I was like, yeah, when did this happen? And he told me when. And he was like, what made you ask that? I said, I don't know. Something in me just felt that.
Came over you. Mm-hmm.
But I think it's because, I think it was that I noticed our phone calls had changed. The quickness of him interacting with me had changed. And, or like, it wasn't like we would have these long drawn out conversations like what we would have all before. And, so maybe that's something that triggered my momminess in me or whatever. Yeah. But as we were driving, I said, so is it your girlfriend? And he was like, yes, ma'am. And, I said, okay. I said, you being safe? He's like, yes, ma'am. I was like, all right. And so while we're driving, he tells me, he's like, yeah, I just told her that And she said, oh my God. He texted her and was like, my mama knows. And
Lord have mercy.
She responded back and was like, oh my God, she's going to hate me. I said, no, I said, tell her, we can talk about it later. This is to the girlfriend. And, so she said, I would love to. So I said, well, once I drop you off, I'll give me her number. I'll go ahead and give her a call. So I dropped him off, and I pulled over on the side of the road, and I cried.
Oh, Tasha.
I cried. And the reason I cried was, and it wasn't even like it was a planned thing or nothing. It was just kind of like it was playing in my head. And I was like, I will never, ever be his number one girl ever again.
That is true.
It's true. It's true. But yeah. I've always said, I never ever want to be that woman. I never want to be that mom who doesn't know her place. Like that, he will forever be my son.
Girl, that's a whole other show, child.
That's a whole other message. But he will forever be my son. But I raised him to be a man, and God willing, to be a husband, to be a father, and I will have to take a back seat. I'm gonna have to. And so in that moment, I was like, this is it. This is the beginning of it. Like, I will never, ever be his number one girl ever again. And I came to peace with that whole situation. And as I drove on, I ended up I called her, and she's like, hello. And I was like, I said, this is Sydney's mom. And she's like, yes, ma'am. And she was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, wait, first of all, I was like, you are an adult. You ain't got to apologize to me for anything. I said, but look, I'm going to have a conversation with you right now that I'm having with you as a woman.
Woman to woman.
I said, you're in college right now. I said, I love my son dearly. I said, but you better not ruin your path in life for this man. I was like, there's nothing wrong with him. I think he's great. I've raised him to be a great human being. I said, but you are on the course for your own, college career, your own profession. I was like, don't get derailed by that. I said, just like I worked my butt off for him to get where he is, I'm sure your parents have worked their butt off for you to get into college where you at. I said, don't ruin that for nobody.
Tasha, that's amazing.
Girl, like, look, that's a real
That's a good level though. Like, to talk to the girl, to let her know, look, you got goals and stuff y'all working for. And I tell a lot of young girls this: you can have sex without having a baby. You don't always have to have a baby.
No.
So be careful. And a condom is not just to prevent getting pregnant. You can't trust everybody.
STD.
I'm sorry. You can't.
Yes.
And so you wind up getting your STD and you going to the doctor by yourself because ain't nobody holding your hand in there while he tell you have something. You know, so protect yourself. That's good. That's the angle I'm gonna use. Of course, my baby 6.
You
got some time. All parents know when they kids are starting to go that route.
I don't know, but you know, I tell everybody, maybe it's my Louisiana blood. I just feel my children. I feel them. I know when stuff is happening. I know when stuff, you know, something is wrong. But you know, when it comes to, you know, so with my daughters, even though I knew that their brother had been, started, he was now sexually active, I didn't feel like it was my place to have that conversation with them. But then one day they asked about it. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to lie to them. So, you know, I told him, I was like, but at this point in life, you know, Sydney is having sex. I was raising him. So if that's the only stage we're at right now, like, I'm good. That. Because, you know, I had him when I was 20. Yeah. So if that's all he's doing right now, like, I'm not going to fuss. Like I always said, with sex comes consequences. And we're not always talking about babies and STDs. We are talking about your heart. We are talking about your mental well-being. We are talking about your spiritual well-being and all things, you know, humanly related. So if you feel like you are at a place to where you can deal with whatever comes into any of those categories, then go ahead.
Do it.
But but just know that everything is not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. That first experience is not going to be on a bed of roses, and he's going to kiss you so gently, you know, on your cheek, and, you know, finesse your face and rub his hands through your hair. It's going to be a hot mess. Y'all probably, you probably are not going to enjoy it. It's going to, like, that's just what it is, right? But I want to have those conversations, and I feel like parents need to have conversations about sex just as generally as they'll have a conversation about sports, just as generally as they'll have a conversation about fashion. Because sports and fashion is cool and all that, but sex is more important. And when I say it's more important, I'm talking about being knowledgeable in it, having an understanding about it. It is more important than any of those things. So if you can have these conversations so freely, have the conversation about sex just as freely.
Just so freely. And I think men too, you know, for the fathers who are actively involved in their daughters' lives, you elbowing your son and you get it, but you also need to step up and talk to your daughters because they need to hear from a male perspective. You know, they need to understand what that means when the same way we get heartbroken when our son is like, I will not be the most important woman. I think a father does too for his girls.
Oh, definitely.
And so he needs to understand that. But that piece you just said, reaching out to that other, oh my God. I think that is like, that's a whole new road that we all need to take. Because
I think
the responsibility is on them both. And you being mature enough to say, I'm not mad at you, sweetheart. I just want you to know you got goals yourself. Don't mess up your life. Don't get crazy behind him. And you know, I love that, Tasha. That's great.
But I feel like, you know, well, in having that conversation with her, one of the things that she did tell me was that she liked the fact that she could have that conversation with me because she said that, you know, in her own, you know, relationship with her mom, those conversations are not happening. And I noticed that even with, you know, the simplest of things whenever it comes to my kids and their friends. There's conversations that these children want to have with an adult.
Yes.
They want to have with somebody who is experienced and knowledgeable but not going to sit here and just be so clinical and technical because sure, you can go to the doctor and have the doctor educate you on things, but the doctor is really not going to give you those real world moments, those heart moments, right? To where there's the feelings of, okay, so you're, you know, how do you view sex? Because, and people are going to have different views and different takes on sex because of their experiences, right?
Absolutely.
But it allows us to have a more relatable conversation. And these young men and women yearn for those conversations. They do. Now, granted, my son probably would have rather had the conversations with a guy, but I was
here I go.
So he was gonna have that conversation with me. So
I'm what you get.
yeah, I'm what you got, you know, but
Yeah.
these children want to have these conversations. And I know for some parents it's extremely uncomfortable. And oh my goodness, the thought of talking to my child about masturbation, the thought of talking to my child about, you know, knowing what pleasure is. And no parent really wants to have that conversation, but you have to want what's best for your child better than what you want your own comfort.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So be uncomfortable and have it.
There you go. I was just going to say, lay it to the side. If you, every uncomfortable conversation you have to have, we have to have so many though. Think about it now. Now we have to tell you how to be when you get pulled over. We have to tell you how to conduct yourself in case somebody run up on you trying to start. I mean, it's so many difficult conversations to have, but you want well-rounded children who are going to grow up into prepared, grow up into adults. And you don't ever want to say, oh, I should have had that conversation. Because honestly and truthfully, the thing is with sex, we can say, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But do you want them secretly behind your back, hiding, sneaking boys in the house, or them sneaking in somebody else's house? You know, don't you want that open communication to be able to say, look, because there is some sex, you lose your mind. I'm going to be honest with you. Y'all know. There is some sex that you have had to where no matter what your mama said, your daddy said, your grandma said, I'm gonna do it.
We're gonna put it in street terms.
At 15, I'm leaving this house and I'm gonna do what I want to do. Because as the grown old people from the South say, now you're smelling yourself. Now you're smelling yourself, and you don't care about those repercussions. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not telling any parent not to have rules for your home, because that's something else. But they need to know how powerful sex is. Okay, so you give it to this person, and you love this person, and guess what? You might get this new dude who don't love you no more because he already got it, so he moving on. But you sexually connected, spiritually connected. And so, you know, that was something I went on a journey with myself, you know, but it wasn't until I was grown. So I can't imagine being young, trying to even think about sex ties and all that stuff, you know. But I do remember that connection I had with my girl's dad. Tasha, it was so strong. If he would have told me breathe for me, I would have, you know, it was just, it was, and sex make it worse because you are connected now, you know. So that's the angle I tried to go at with my girls. You know, I have no clue what I'm gonna say to my son. No, I hadn't even thought about it.
You have time for that.
Yeah, I hope, because now you can get in trouble for going up to a girl at school and just hugging her. You know, like it's crazy the world we live in, y'all. Like it's crazy.
That actually made me think about a situation. I want to say she was in 3rd grade, but I remember there was an incident with my youngest daughter. There was this little boy that kept irritating her, kept bothering her. Well, one day he decided to slap her on her butt.
Oh, okay.
And she responded as though she's my daughter. And so
as Tasha's daughter.
As Tasha's daughter, she responded, and they actually disciplined my daughter and him. And when when my child came home and told me what happened, I said, "Oh, what we not gonna do is teach my daughter that she is not allowed to protect her own body." So I politely drafted an email in very stern wording to let it be known that y'all mishandled this whole situation. Because what should have been done was y'all should have separated the two and asked her what happened. Whenever she let you know what happened, y'all should have had a conversation, bring me into it, whatever the case may be. Y'all should have also allowed this young boy to understand that at a certain age, you do something like that, that's sexual assault, little boy.
Sexual assault, baby. Sure is.
I got all sorts of apologies. Of course, I keep everything. I still have the email from that. And but the principal called me into the office because I didn't just send this to the teacher, because the teacher was the one who did it. But I sent this to the principal and the counselor,
Superintendent.
and I let it be known, if y'all don't address this appropriately, I will be going to the school board next. Because it goes back to what you were talking about. My children had already known, if you are touched inappropriately in any way, especially in those areas, regardless of whether you have clothes on or not, you defend yourself. You say something, you address it. It's not okay. And of course, it was a third grader, so she had no problems handling it herself. But now you basically have punished her to make her feel like that's not okay. No.
And that's not okay.
And like you
that's
said,
not fair.
These are conversations that need to be happening at an early age. And unfortunately, Noah's not there yet. But here it is. These children were in third grade, and he needed to understand that's her body, and you don't have the right to touch her. Even if it was him touching her on her arm and she doesn't like it.
Right.
It's her body. You don't have the right to do that. So, it's unfortunate that, these rules are the way that they are, but what makes it unfortunate is that we've gotten to a point to where we have to have rules.
Have to create them. Absolutely.
Because you have boys and girls, because some of these little girls are aggressive as hell.
Man, you better say it again.
Listen.
These girls they're so aggressive. They are more aggressive than the boys. And they're demanding. And they are definitely to the point to where, they hop. They with this homeboy, they with this homeboy, so just pay attention to your children's actions. Any parent, I will say that. And then the girls who are overly sexualized, even the boys who are overly sexualized, you need to get to the root of that. Not saying that it's a horrible thing, but what's going on? When did this start? And then, just trying to figure out what it is, because you should not be that young and being that exposed. I'm talking about 11 and 12-year-olds, middle schoolers. You should not be that young and that exposed.
I remember I got so irritated because someone sent me a picture of a baby taking a bath, and when they sent it to me, they said, "Oh, we had to cover up his privates because he packing." And I'm like, ew. Like,
girl, I know you lying.
Yes. When I tell you, I was so angry at that statement. I was like, do you realize how sexualized you just this infant who can't even hold a head up right? This is how you're speaking. But the unfortunate part was that I can't say that I was 100% surprised, because it's almost like it's acceptable in certain areas of cultures to talk about children this way. And it's like, no, you should not be talking about how big of a juicy booty some little girl has. You should not be talking about what this little boy is packing. Like, this is not okay. So whenever they miss the mark that early on, surely later on down the road, they are not viewing a person's body, sex, or sexuality in a healthy way. So
no, they're not.
I feel like there needs to be some reprogramming in some arenas when it comes to how we view the human body, and also how we view sex when it comes to the human body. Because you have some people who are going crazy about the fact that this dad is, there was a picture of the McClure twins. I don't know if you're familiar with the two little girls. They are twins of of an interracial couple, and the father is white. And he posted a picture of him on the swing, and one of his daughters was on the swing, sitting in his lap on the swing, and the other one was right next to him. And everybody was like, I can't believe you have your daughter sitting on your lap at that age. And I was like, have we really gone mad?
Some people have.
And I get it. And some people are speaking from their own place of trauma and hurt,
there you go,
and the things that they've encountered. But that doesn't mean that whenever somebody is genuinely showing love and affection in a very natural and healthy way, that we have to automatically deem it as wrong. We have to.
Tasha, I was like that. And I'll be the first to say that. I didn't grow up with men around me. I grew up in a very matriarchal family. My mom, my grandmother, all my aunts. So I saw it as being weird
Yeah.
when I saw a daughter being affectionate with her father.
Yeah.
And that is just as normal as a son kissing his mama.
Yep.
And so, you know, I kind of had to reprogram myself because I was like, girl, that's just all on me. It's
Yeah.
not that every man not sexually abusing their child. Some girls do want to actually go up to their dad and hug them and sit in their lap. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? It's not, I had to get that ugliness out my head because of what I saw in my own family. So
Yeah.
if a child was doing that, that child had been sexually abused. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's dealing with the ugliness when it comes about, but not automatically looking for the ugly.
Yeah.
You know,
But I think the way we get around that is we start having healthy conversations about sex and sexuality. Yeah. What is good, what is bad, and not shying away from these topics, and also not taking and putting a blanket statement over everybody.
Yes.
Because, you know, like I'm sure some people would be shocked if they were to see me, you know, like, especially whenever I was with my grandparents. I would kiss my grandparents dead on the mouth.
Yeah.
You know, in
and we
Louisiana.
don't do that. That's, oh my God. That's, oh my God. Yeah.
In Louisiana, that's what we do. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's what everybody does. I know in my,
Right.
my Louisiana family, that is big, or it was
Yeah.
big. But when people start to scrutinize and start to, you know,
make it seem sexual.
Yeah, when it's like, y'all do realize Louisiana has a heavy French background, right? So doing that stuff, that's been passed down generation after generation after generation, and we don't see anything wrong with it. But somebody comes in from the outside, and now it's sexualized, and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is this wrong? But I had the conversation with my own children because I wanted them to understand that this is something that I've experienced my entire life, and I'm okay with it. But if at any point in time there's any sort of affection that is shown to y'all that y'all are not comfortable with, it's okay to say you're not comfortable.
It's okay.
Because that's not like, that's not what you grew up in, and it's okay because it is your body, and I don't want you to feel uncomfortable about it. But that all comes from having those healthy conversations and recognizing that sex is not this horrible topic. It's not this horrible experience. We have had some horrible experiences, but we have to be open to talking to our especially our teenagers, because those are the ones who are really like in the throes of it, in the thick of it.
Yes.
Trying to make it make sense, and they get ready to go out into the world and probably experiencing it, you know, in their own way. And I would rather them not have, so, you know, this sheltered, traumatic experience from their childhood, and then trying to figure out how to have a healthy and whole sexual experience as an adult.
Yeah, and that takes. I know everybody not into therapy, but that definitely takes a counselor. Because processing how to turn that ugly thing that happened to them, that sexual abuse, that sexual assault, into one day you're telling me I'm going to like this and I'm going to want to feel, you know, like this with my husband or my significant other or whoever. So I really feel like that takes years to process, and depending on how long a child was abused, you know. But once again, it's levels to it. I remember being 11, once again, middle school, and a man looking at me so sexually, it made me feel dirty. And I can still see this person, I can feel it. And, you know, and I'm just thinking, or a man telling me, girl, when you get older, you're going to be a bad, like you shouldn't even talk to kids like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it made me feel like, what was I doing? Are my shorts too short? So now I'm no longer in that child mentality. Now I'm feeling like I'm sexy.
Yeah.
You know? And so those little conversations, those little things, and I don't think I ever told my mom that, you know, I don't think I ever, my homegirls, of course, because they're your friends.
Yeah.
But that type of stuff, and one of my girlfriends had actually said, well, that's what you, I mean, if you're gonna get you a man, get you an older man. This was a grown man at over 21, over.
And you in middle school?
I was in middle school. Never forget that. Walking in my neighborhood, just being a kid. You know, we go our days at Dukes. You wore your little shag shorts, but it wasn't to attract anybody. It was just to be. That's what you wore. And so I remember thinking, I'm being sexy now. You know, like. What does that even mean?
But it goes back to what I was saying. This is why we need to be having these conversations with our kids, right? Because we need them to understand what is what is appropriate and what is inappropriate, what makes sense, what does not make sense. Because at that point, it should be a conversation on, you don't see nothing wrong with a 20-something-year-old man looking at you 11 years old. Right. Like, you know why he was looking at you like that? And then you have a conversation about it. So then now it's not you having this this foolish idea from a child's mind of, oh, I'm sexy. You know, like
I'm sexy.
At 11? Yep. Like, so that's what I'm saying. We need to be open to having these conversations, because I assure you, the world is already showing them these things. The world is already allowing them to experience things. So we have to make sure that we're preparing them and having these conversations and allowing ourselves to be uncomfortable and emotionally detaching ourselves from it. Because like I said, nobody wants to think about their child having those sexual experiences, but we have to be okay talking about it. We have to be okay making things make sense, not being clinical about everything, but being very real, being authentic about it, and calling things what they are, but also speaking on experiences from an experienced place.
Yes. Girl, you better say that. You better say that.
I wish we would.
And I'm sure as uncomfortable it is for parents to even think about having that conversation, think about, because I was 16 when I had my first child. So think about how you as a parent would feel having to not only finish raising this 16-year-old, now you got to help her be a mother. You got to raise your granddaughter or grandson. So, you got to think about those type of things. The consequences of just being silent are greater than the education piece. So, silence is agreement.
That's a message right there, girl. That's a whole message. But I mean, as you and I will sit here and talk for days, and we will go on from one topic to the next to the next. I was hoping that we would be able to have our, like I said, have our daughters up here, so where we're not having kind of like a one-sided conversation. I'm sure something will come up later on down the road where our kids are involved. But in the meantime, like I said, I'm thankful and grateful that you were able to come up here and have a little chat with me. I didn't do it at the beginning, but I want you to do it right now. Let everybody know who you are, what you're about, what services you provide, what is it that you do, and let them know how they can find you.
Okay, so I am NaKisha Henderson. I'm here in Gulfport, Mississippi. Tasha left out how we knew each other. We went to elementary school for a little while, and her personality has always been like what you see that's how she was in elementary school. So, but here in Gulfport, I am a life coach. Been in mental health for over 20 years, and I just help people figure things out. You have all the answers that you need for your life, but sometimes you just need a little guidance. And that's what I do. I love it. I'm very passionate about it. I also, do a lot of other things, party planning and event planning and, all kind of stuff like that, because I'm all about healing the body, mind, spirit. I am on Facebook as NaKisha White Henderson, and then I also have NaKisha White Henderson personal life coach, and then I'm on Instagram as Keisha_so_kindly. So if you guys want to follow me, I do these type of interviews and podcasts, and wherever people feel like, hey, she would be good, I join, because the more we educate our people, the better off we'll be. So I love Tasha, and I know this won't be my last time. So
this one, of course, this is not going to be your last time. But like I said, I appreciate you joining in. For those who are not following her, please do go and follow. If you have any questions, reach out to her and ask. She is an open book, just as I am. So use the resources that we have here. We are not here to do life by ourselves. We're here to do it together. So like I said, thank you. Y'all, thank y'all for joining me this Tuesday. And of course, I will see y'all next Tuesday.
Hey, good night, girl.
Good night.